Welcome back to Partnerships Unraveled, the podcast where we unravel the mysteries of partnerships and channel on a weekly basis. My name is Rick van der Bos, CEO and founder at Channext and co-host of Partnerships Unraveled, and I'm here together with my co-founder Alex Whitford, VP Operations and Partners, and also co-host of Partnerships Unraveled. Alex, how are you doing today?
Yeah, really good, Rick. Excited to be back on.
Me as well, and I think we're going to discuss a topic today that's actually very close to our heart, because Alex, how hard is it to do marketing in a channels environment?
Yeah, I think it's like lots of things in the channel, difficult, but when done well, the best version of that thing. So yeah, I think if we explore today some of the 4 key challenges that we see with marketing in the channel, and then discuss some potential improvements that can be made and how people can target and ultimately leverage the channel to deliver hyperscale and obviously hypergrowth.
Yes, I think maybe it's nice to start with some statistics, because if you look at partner marketing in a channel environment, we see that partners are only participating in less than 15% of all the marketing activities that vendors enroll for them. While the marketing activities, of course, are to help the partners to generate demand. And I think that's, if you look at it from the outside world, it doesn't really make sense, because we want to do marketing to generate demand and to drive revenue and sales, but almost nobody is participating. So indeed, how do you think that origins?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of pieces in there that's interesting. So I think conceptually, everyone agrees that marketing, if done well, is a useful tool to generate revenue impact, right? So we start there and then work backwards. So is it a lack of resources, a lack of time, a lack of prioritization? Is the marketing not particularly good? Is it difficult to find? There's lots of elements of friction that I think add up there to equal. Yeah, I think 15% sometimes is slightly optimistic. I see numbers as low as 6 to 8% of marketing participation in some areas. So even if we optimistically say 15%, for want of a word that my mother wouldn't like me to say, I'll choose a different one, but that's not very good. So how do we try and drive a much higher level of impact? I think resource is a key element, but I also think not high quality marketing is another key element. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think if you look at it from that perspective, there's indeed prioritization. I think a really good topic there. Of course, there's a general lack of resources everywhere in the channel, but eventually is it a priority? And it becomes a priority if you know that it actually brings the results that you want. And that's what I think is where we really need to focus on as well, is showing the partners, why should you participate in my marketing activities as well? And it's super frustrating, of course, if you're a marketer and you're spending millions, or with some companies billions per year, creating content, enrolling activities, etc., and then only see less than 15% of the partners actually participating in it. How many resources are we wasting?
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's 2 questions there. If you know that 15% of your channel are implementing the marketing assets, and those assets generate an ROI, well, you've got 2 issues to solve. One, how do you get more than 15% participating? Because if you get to 30 or 45, well, your ROI is going to double or triple respectively. And then it's also, how do you convince the channel about that marketing participation? There's one thing that I see that annoys me all the time. Hey, we've created content. Okay. How is that content performing? Why should partners be involved? As opposed to when I've seen it work particularly well, hey, we used this campaign in the US and these were the outcomes that we saw. We're now bringing it to EMEA. Would you like to be a part of that process? That's a much more compelling prospect, which is, oh, great, we have seen an ROI from this, and now we want to bring it to you. That's a partnership conversation, as opposed to how often the channel is designed, which is, we're going to create stuff and hopefully it will flow down and hopefully the partners will generate income and revenue for us, as opposed to, well, let's attack this together. Let's target your end users, target net new end users, and win in conjunction with each other. And I think that's the common theme that I see poorly designed channels go after. They use partners, they don't work with partners. Yeah,
I think eventually it all comes down to what's in it for them. And that's what's missing a lot when we're launching marketing activities. We always say it we tell it to the partners from the vendor perspective. Like, I would love you to participate in my marketing activities. We are going to generate demand, etc. Well, the way you just stated it, you really go into a much more what's in it for them status, because you say, hey, we've tested this already. We know that it's working. This is what's in it for you, because these are the results that you can probably expect as well. And so you already started with the end in mind for the partner. And I think that's really where you can bring so much value to a partner as well, and convince them much easier why they should participate. Because they want to know, okay, if I participate, it's nice that you want me to participate, but if I do, what does that bring to me? And what does that bring to my business? And I think that's super crucial, just before we dive into the other topics as well, to really get a good hold of, like, how do you convince partners to actually participate at first? Like, what makes them trigger to think, I want to participate, I want to bring this together to the end user?
Sure. So there's three things I would tackle if I was about to take a marketing strategy through lots of partners through a big region. So the first one is, what's the plan? So who are we targeting? How are we targeting? Is that condensed and explained effectively? What's the desired outcome? And where's the proof that that's going to happen? Sometimes you have no proof, but giving people an understanding of, we are expecting new contents, we want to generate MQLs, we want to generate revenue, what's the desired outcome and potential barriers. So here's what we've seen that's failed, here's where it's not working, so that people have a level of confidence that this isn't marketing content, but a marketing strategy. And those two are wildly different things, right? Too often we are content focused and we need to be strategy focused. And the other piece of advice I'd give all channel people, and in fact, it's a business principle we talk about regularly at Channext, right? There is always enough time. There is never enough prioritization. So I hate hearing from anyone, I didn't have time to do that. No, you didn't prioritize it, which is fine. That might be the correct decision. But when you're building a strategy, don't think about how much time it will take. Build a value proposition to support that activity, and then you can drive the right behavior from your channel. So, for example, we don't have time to do this marketing content. Well, this marketing content we're expecting to generate X ROI. So can you talk to me through your other priorities? Oh, well, we're doing this thing. Well, what's the expected outcome? Oh, we don't have one. Right, so are you prioritizing a marketing activity that you don't have an expected outcome over this predicted outcome? Then you're suddenly into a prioritization conversation, and that's a much more persuasive argument than, oh, this only takes 10 minutes to do, or this only will take a week, or a time frame conversation. If you start talking about impact, measuring impact, and predictive impact, it's much easier to get a prioritization out of your partner base. And too often, we're not having a priority conversation.
I think on the vendor side, I agree with you, but on the partner side, I think I have to challenge you a little bit, because if I look at the partner, and I think that's a good timing to actually dive a bit deeper in time and resources at the partner side. I think what's really hard there for the partners is that they have so little marketing resources. Oftentimes for a regular SMB partner, they have 0 to 1 FTE of marketing, and they need to do their own corporate marketing, so their own LinkedIn, their own website, etc., their own customer cases. And then they have to manage 20 to 30 vendors. And all those vendors are asking them to participate in their marketing activities.
Yep.
So there's just this one person who has to do it all. And I think from that perspective, there's such a genuine lack of time and resources on a partner level, where like, no matter if they would have the highest priority, they just can't do it all. And I think that's really something vendors have to think about. Like, how can I make it easier for my partners? And how can I fully agree, first, you need to create the priority so that partners are very well aware what's in it for them and why are they participating. But secondly, they should really facilitate the partner, because probably it's not going to change on the short term that they have 0 to 1 FTE of marketing. And I think that's a very interesting thing to look at in the channel, to really bring it towards the partner, make it easier for them, have the right priority, and from there start scaling it. And I think that's really important to look at, like, how can I make like life easier for the marketers at my partners?
Yes. So I think where I slightly disagree with you in one element, which is I don't think when your lack of resource or lack of time, prioritization becomes more important, not less important. If I can only send one email a day, you best believe it's going to be the best email I've ever written. If I get to send 100 emails, well, the quality starts to drop because I start thinking in a more quantitative way. So if I was a partner marketer and the only partner marketer, and you said, Alex, build a 12-month strategy, the first thing I'm looking at is automation, right? Because of exactly the time limiting aspect that you're talking about. So I'm going to build an automation strategy. So what pillar content can I create that I can cut up and put into lots of different areas? What marketing campaigns are available, and how can I cascade those effectively? What can I do to automate that journey? Because if it takes 6 weeks for me to run a campaign, well, okay. But if it takes 4 weeks for me to look at automation technology and then I can run 3 campaigns in the subsequent 6 weeks, well, actually my growth level's massively increased. So I'm going to start at a more of a process conversation and then look at what vendors are removing friction. How can I work more dynamically and then target that? But if you're tied on resource, and this goes even out to some of the businesses out there, which are many, that don't even have a full-time employee in a marketing perspective. If I'm just a CEO of a small sales organization and I'm looking, how can I generate more inbound demand? Well, then I'm looking at automation tools even as a higher priority, because that's going to bring inbound demand and ultimately generate revenue. So for the marketeers out there, focus first on not making the car run 10% faster, make the car run 200% faster. And you look at that by massive process improvement. There are significant automation tools out there to help drive inbound demand gen, and that's really got to be the number one priority.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think from that perspective, we just spoke a little bit more on the SMB side, of course, but the same accounts for the larger partners who are active worldwide, like Insight or Bechtle and companies like CDW, companies like that, they also always lack time and resources on the marketing department, right? And there it's even more important. They do have resources. And there it's even more important, like how do you make sure your brand becomes top priority and top of mind with the partners? And that's a real thing you need to focus on as well. Like how do you get it to the partners, make sure that they understand why should I do it with you and not with them? Because that's the choice always, right? I think that's what you were saying as well about the prioritization. Like what would you advise for the larger partners? Like how do you get top of mind there?
Sure. So my favorite thing to do when I'm speaking about a marketing strategy is to incorporate sales. Because to be honest, a marketing strategy in a silo away from sales objectives it's almost a bit disingenuous. How do you just deliver a marketing campaign without understanding what the sales objectives are? So wherever possible, I'm pulling in senior sales leadership and senior marketing leadership and putting together a long-term vision for what we're trying to achieve, and then incorporating the sales message into a marketing plan and taking those to market together. Because marketing without sales is demand gen with no follow-up. Sales without marketing is really heavy lifting. So working those two in tandem is ultimately how you design a really, really strong sales and marketing channel strategy.
Yes, and then usually with the larger partners, I think they have pretty vendor-focused employees, of course. So would you then say you need like the account manager or the salesperson who's, let's take an example, who's responsible for Dell, together with the marketer who usually does the campaigns for Dell, and you grab the two of them together to drive the campaigns and to make sure you focus on the right type of customers as well.
Yeah, so let's take a hypothetical example. Dell releases a new product type. They enter a segment that they've never worked in before. Well, that's a very challenging sales and marketing strategy. And so I think channel businesses should get away from talking about sales and marketing and start talking about business objectives. We've got a significant opportunity because we're entering a new market. Well, let's tie in sales objectives and marketing objectives that pull together to achieve those business goals. So what I would then be doing is, yeah, exactly like you say, how are we going to touch end users? How are we going to market this internally so everyone's aware of this? How are we going to build a sales plan? What existing end users are we going to go after? What new end users are we going to go after? So often I see the mistake happen, which is vendors decide, I know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk into a partner and we are going to try and just cross-sell. So we're going to go and take a competitor's business within the same partner, and in England we say robbing Peter to pay Paul. It makes no difference, right? If I've just moved a column money from this column to this column, it doesn't impact me. And so having a net new end user acquisition as well as a cross-sell and upsell strategy is paramount to any business objective. But then you've got to build underneath that sales and marketing objectives to support those goals.
Yes, and at the partner level, where it's like the larger partners and the smaller partners together, I think if you look at it indeed from a time and resource perspective, you can indeed do automation. But I think also for the people who don't have automation yet, what's really important is make their life easier. So first make sure you have the priority, and after that make it easy. And how can you make it easy? Already co-brand the assets for them, like provide everything that they can just one-on-one push it forward to the end user eventually. And there's one important element there as well, and that's languages, of course. And I think that's the thing I would like to dive a little bit deeper in together, because in EMEA and APAC specifically, there's this huge language barrier. Like how many languages do we have? And I'm really wondering, like, what do you think? What do you see there as the challenges, and how can you potentially solve those challenges?
So I'll come on to languages in 1 second, but I think an interesting thing that we've gone through, and you're absolutely right, but one thing there, I gave you an example of if I was a partner marketer. Well, hang on, let me go one step backwards. If I was in vendor marketing strategy, the first thing I would be looking at is automation for exactly the same reason of scaling resource, right? Partner resource is limited, distributor resource is limited. Removing friction is going to be the number one scaling factor. So I'm not just going, oh, what content can I create over the next 12 months that's going to generate an impact? What tools am I going to implement which is going to scale that content far more effectively? That would be where I would focus first, while everyone else is worrying about, does my data sheet look right? And should we do more videos or less videos? How are we going to target that? No. Talk about scale, because that's the whole point of channel, is you can hyperscale in a way that you can't with any other business model. So first talk about how do we grow from 15% campaign participation up to 90, 100%, right? That's what you're aiming for. And so we can talk about mildly improving the ROI percentage, but the biggest impact on ROI would be greater campaign participation. So that's where I would start. And then we can start talking about content quality, because to me, it's insane to say, you know, we in a sales methodology, do you want to sell more just to your only customer, or do you want to acquire new customers? Well, the answer is do both. But if you've only got a very limited set of customers, I would be expanding your customer base. The same goes for marketing. You've got partners who are there, ready, available, have opportunity, and we're not marketing to them. Prioritize automation, and then we can come back from that strategy. But to your point, languages, yes, that's the sort of next vehicle in removing that friction, and might be one of the limiting factors in campaign participation. We're in the Netherlands at the moment, and it's amazing. Everyone here speaks such high quality English, but we'll tell you very clearly the ROI and the end user engagement are based on English content versus content in Dutch. Content in Dutch performs significantly better. And there is a very, let's say, resource-driven mindset of, well, we could translate it, but then how are we going to scale that effectively? That's a little bit complicated to manage. And people here speak English really well, so it'll be fine. Well, it'll be fine, but it won't be optimum. Like, the way to do it is to generate content in every language possible, because that's going to deliver your end user engagement. And for the relatively small cost and operational backbone of translating your content will do better.
Yes, if I can tie into that, indeed, it's not just that the content performs better if you offer it in the local language to the end user, but it's also that partners will simply not share it if it's not in their own language. Like, if you look at all the partners, we've seen them everywhere throughout Europe, they almost always, like maybe a handful who do it in English, but almost always communicate in their local language. So in the Netherlands in Dutch, in Spain in Spanish, Italian, etc. So if you don't offer the content in that language, you are relying on the partner to translate it themselves. And we both know that hardly happens. Only the partners who receive MDF for that will do that. So all the other partners, and I think that's partly where the less than 15% of partner marketing participation comes from as well, all the other partners are not participating in your marketing activities. So you are missing such a massive go-to-market motion towards the end user with those type of partners. And that's really why it's so important to provide the local languages in your most important markets.
Exactly. I think it can be summed up by saying if I was a vendor, if I was a global marketing manager for a big tech vendor, I would be ensuring that content performance is optimal by translating content, not just so that the performance at the end user is good, but that the performance at the partner level is good. Again, we're talking about a really, really wide funnel if done correctly. But you're sort of cutting yourself off at the knees if you just go, oh, well, we do English. Well, hang on. Most of the world doesn't speak English, and most of your partners won't share content if it's just in English. So again, prioritize, right? You don't need to do every language all at once, but let's put together a 12, 24-month roadmap on how we get maximum coverage, because that's going to drive a significant ROI. I think we spend a lot of time, and marketeers, especially more creative focused marketeers, will spend a lot of time worrying about content type and what's in the content, whereas content scale has to be a massive focus, and automation and languages are two hypervectors to making scale work.
Yes, what I also think is that it's super important here to work very closely together with the corporate marketing team and the channel marketing or the partner marketing team. Because eventually why a lot of channels and partner marketing teams are not doing it is that they are creating their own content, which is to partner communication. Well, what you want to do is end user marketing and end user communication. And who is working the full day on end user marketing? The corporate marketing team. So I think if you tie those together, and they are already working on multi-language, almost all the large vendors, when you go to their website, they have multi-language with everything. So if you tie this together, where you focus on actually bringing the local languages of corporate marketing assets for the end users together with partner marketing, then you really create skill together. You can provide it in the local languages. You will see partner marketing participation rising, and eventually you will reach much more end users. So I think that's, if they tie that together, that's where you will really win.
I think what we need to see more of, and I hear it a lot described in channel as last mile marketing, maybe here last kilometer marketing, but what we want to do is deliver to partner marketing to help drive partner recruitment, enablement and understanding, but then through partner marketing is end user marketing. And it's absolutely insane that we see corporate marketing, who typically have the largest budget, right? Because you can tie ROI very, very cleanly to corporate marketing, and that marketing content isn't made available, and not just made available, automatically pushed through partners to maximally deliver ROI through those partners. And if I'm a partner and I'm sat there looking at my marketing priorities over the next 12 months, I'm looking for the content that I know performs well. You know, let's take Apple as a great vendor who has really, really good end user marketing, right? They've got the strongest brand of all time. Well, if someone said, here's all of that content, would you like to co-brand it and deliver that through to your end users? Yes.
Yes, I'm sure that all the partners will say yes to that. I think you're touching on an interesting thing, measuring content performance and ROI of marketing. And that's also one of the hardest thing within channel marketing and within partner marketing, is that the data is so scattered because you are marketing through hundreds, thousands, or maybe 10,000s of partners. And all the data is scattered in those local systems, because marketing is mostly shifted to digital, of course. So it's through the website, it's through social media like Facebook, like LinkedIn. It's through advertising, Google AdWords, LinkedIn advertising. And if you look at it, like if you work with 1,000 partners, I just named 5 to 6 type of marketing systems that there are. There are already 6,000 marketing systems that you need to tie together and need to find the data. And I think that's what's so hard, is how do you get the data from the partners to you as a vendor, so you can actually see what are the results and what is the impact that we're making with our true partner marketing. And if you don't tie that together, we've tried to fix it, of course, with working with MDF and proof of execution. So where a partner requests market development funds, they get it approved, but at the end of the quarter, they need to give their proof of execution where they show these are the assets that I've used and here are the results that I'm doing as well. But that's so hard because it's so scattered. It's in the website analytics, it's in the LinkedIn analytics. So even the partner oftentimes doesn't know about that data. So how can you get that data together as a vendor and really get a total overview of what's happening? I think that's really the hard thing to solve as a vendor.
It's not just that, but it's actually marketing quality. So one of the reasons that end user marketing, typically done direct, is so powerful is I can do things like A/B testing. For anyone who's set up Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads and you're targeting end users directly, inherently you do something called A/B testing, which for the non-marketeers out there is when I run two very similar campaigns, but I change one feature. So I might choose two different photos, but the text is identical. And then what you'll see is performance analytics against one of those performs better. So then you go, okay, the A session is better. And then you do a new A/B test and you have this forever optimize and re-optimize marketing strategy. What that means is after 12 months of running these campaigns, your marketing is better because you've had that continual feedback. Now, you can imagine if you're doing that while marketing to end users, your marketing's got better over time. Well, what happens now that you're marketing through partners? Well, you don't get any of that feedback. You do none of that A/B testing. Feasibly, it means you don't get any feedback from end users about the content quality. Now, that's really, really difficult then for through partner marketing to manage effectively. How do you ensure that your content quality is improving over time? Well, unless you don't have that data and that feedback back, it's impossible. So it's not just that you're trying to coordinate all the data back so that you can, do revenue attribution. Is our marketing in a certain area working? But it's also content improvement over time and looking at scaling and automation tools which allow you to do that A/B testing through the channel. I think the technologies that deliver that successfully are the technologies that are going to generate hyperscaling through the channel, because marketing performance to end users has got very good over the last 10 to 15 years with LinkedIn, Google, Facebook. But through partner marketing hasn't been able to do that same level of improvement and re-optimization. We talk a lot in this business about fail fast, fail cheap, right? The strong entrepreneurs, the strong salespeople and the strong marketing people aren't the people that come up with the best ideas necessarily. They're the people that come up with an idea, execute it, fail or win and re-optimize, and they do that very, very quickly. The problem with the channel is it's so hard to do that quickly because of the feedback loop. So I would be looking at that as its own process. How do we get a feedback loop tighter? There are automation and technology that can help you, but also asking partners about performance metrics and not simply, hey, did we get any ROI? Did we get a lead from this? Right? That's really, really important to improve marketing content.
Yes, and that's also exactly the reason why corporate marketing gets so much more budget than partner marketing, because they can measure it all. Like they can continuously measure how many end users are we reaching, how are they engaging, how many are converting, and things like that. And from that perspective, that's what you want. Like you want to build your case internally to show what's the ROI of the marketing, the partner marketing activities that you're doing there. And actually, I think I have a good example of what you just said with fail fast, fail cheap. Because what I've seen multiple times already, from my side, that I come from an advertising background as well, where you do LinkedIn advertising with a partner, for example. And let's say you give a partner 10,000 euros in MDF to launch a campaign in a quarter. And what it works like in the channel is the partner requests, like, I want to do a campaign. May I do that? Yes, you may do that. You approve the budget. They do it. They spend 10,000 euros. And at the end of the quarter, you get your proof of execution. It's like, oh, sorry, it didn't really work out. This is the amount of leads, etc. The campaigns didn't perform well. And that's that lack of data in the channel. And with true partner marketing, you only hear it at the end of the quarter if they give it back. But what you want is to know it on a daily basis, on a real-time basis. And that's what you mean with fail fast, fail cheap. You want to know that it's not working after spending 500 euros of that advertising budget, not after 10,000. And that's the big difference with corporate marketing and true partner marketing, is that the lagging factor there. So it takes a long time before you actually have access to it, if you get access to the data. And if you can bring that together and make sure that together with your partners, you are on top of that. Then you can immediately like get together again with your partners as soon as if it's not working. And that's really where you can bring the ROI of your budget so much higher, because you know within a week that it's not working instead of at the end of the quarter.
And not just improve ROI of your budget, increase your budget. If I was running channel marketing globally and I wanted to double or triple my budget, I would tie a tighter correlation of ROI improvement, because effectively marketing, and we laugh about this a lot, right? Marketing is a magic money box. Put 10 in, hopefully get 20 out. Put 10 in, hopefully get 100 out if marketing performance is really good. And so, but if you can prove that, you can really, really prove and tie and correlate the revenue performance to those marketing activities. Guess what? It won't be 10 in. It'll be 20. It'll be 100. It'll be 10,000. And that's the game. And that's the challenge of channel marketing. So when we talk about scale, when we talk about languages, when we talk about automation, it's not just hit more partners. It's grow your budget, because you can improve the performance, therefore tie that tighter to revenue, therefore drive a revenue impact. And instead of all the budget being spent on hiring, instead of all the budget being spent on corporate marketing, suddenly it's being spent on channel marketing, because you've now got the scaling vector of not just talking to 1,000 end users, talking to 1 million.
Yeah, I think what's super important there is indeed you need to focus on the infrastructure. You said it before as well. If you have a good infrastructure, that will lead to increasing your marketing participation with your partners significantly. But it also will lead to being able to automatically collect the data and bring it back together in one dashboard. And I think that's what you want. You always say it, right? You want B2C marketing in a B2B environment. And that's what you should focus on in your true partner marketing strategy. You want a very high participation, so you're reaching as many end users as possible. But you also want to measure everything, so get back all the data, so you have the same type of data, the reach, the engagement, the conversion, everything that you would have in corporate marketing. And that you need a good infrastructure for that. That's the only possibility. You need to be connected to your partners. You need to make it easy for them. You need to bring the content through your partners to the end user, but also measure all the interactions between those end users and those partners. And if you can bring that together in one dashboard, that's where you really will bring marketing ROI, and you can show how our marketing and our content activities performing.
Yeah, channel leaders, and I think we all agree, right, that if you want to go fast, go direct. You can go really, really quickly, because you can maintain your own data, you can drive control, you can continuously optimize and re-optimize. There's no lag when it's your own business. But if you want to go far, go via channel. And that's also where we agree, because you suddenly get all the scaling mechanics of, you've got all of this landed partner base, local language, all of the great pieces there. The businesses that will radically outperform everyone else are the ones that close the gap between going fast and going far, delivering the same benefits of going direct, i.e. feedback loops, automation, technology, data, but via the channel. Suddenly you're going to get the best of both worlds and win. And so if I'm a channel leader, I'm looking about how I do that from a sales and a marketing strategy. Because if we can deliver the same data management, the same automation, the same feedback loops via sales and marketing through the channel, suddenly I'm going to get the best of both worlds, and I will radically outperform everyone else in the market.
Yes, I fully agree with that. And I think from that perspective, we dived pretty deeply into marketing, of course, and content performance, marketing performance. But there's one other thing that's really hard within the channel, and that's tying revenue to marketing, because all the revenue data is also at the partner level, and that's even harder to get than the marketing data. So I think maybe it's interesting to dive a little bit deeper into that topic.
I think you've brought up an interesting point. So revenue attribution through the channel is broken 100%, because if I have to call someone and say, did you do a good job? Did this work? That's not a system that works at scale. It's not how we do it in sales, right? We don't call each individual salesperson or call each business and go, how much revenue did you do last month? No, we track it automatically, because that's the only way it scales effectively. And so we've worked that out from an operations perspective, from a technical perspective, from a sales perspective, but not from a marketing perspective. So we need to fix marketing revenue attribution through the channel, or it will never scale at the same rate that other budgets scale. And so we've discussed effectively marketing infrastructure through the channel this whole podcast, which I think is a great topic, but revenue attribution is the piece that ties all of that together, because that's the way budgets grow, right? If I can, the magic money box machine, right? If I can put 10 in and get 20 out, and I can tie that to my activity, then 10 won't go in next time, 100 will go in, 1,000, 10,000. And that's what we need to see. And so the only way to do that effectively and at scale is to look at technology to simplify that whole market. And you know, we've spent our life at Channext, right, trying to solve this issue, because that marketing attribution and ROI performance of marketing dollars spent, that is the key thing to making the channel grow very successfully. And to me, you handle that hand in hand with your partners, because it's very easy to tell a partner, hang on, we're going to give you 10 today, but if we can prove that this works, it won't be 10, it'll be 100, it'll be 1,000. You know, it's a factor of 10 increase once we see that marketing performance. But that's what I'm looking at. If I'm a CMO, I'm looking at marketing attribution through the channel. How do we automate that? Because then I know my budget grows, I deliver revenue impact, which helps everyone perform well and helps drive growth, especially in this market where budgets are being cut and resources being tied up. I'm looking at infrastructure to sort that problem out.
Yes, and the infrastructure is the thing you need to be able to measure it. And then it's also super important to look at what are we measuring. And I think that's the thing that's specifically broken within channel marketing and partner marketing. It's that we are so focused on MQLs. Because if you look at it, we've spoken to many vendors about it, like how much of your revenue actually, of your partner revenue actually starts as an MQL. And it's less than 5% for most of the channels.
I've had less than 1% from at least 5, multi-billion-dollar vendors, right?
Yes, right. It's crazy if you think about it. And the only thing we're measuring from a marketing perspective, so with all the market development funds, with all the activities, is how many MQLs, marketing qualified leads, did you generate? And if you think about it, that it's only generating less than 5% of the total channel revenue funnel, then we are focusing all our budgets from partner marketing into what is generating less than 5%. Well, if you look at the other 95%, that's all generated through proactive messaging, partners having good customer relationships, etc. And then how I always used to say this is a partner, you are working with partners as well because they already have a very strong local network, a strong local customer base. And if you start doing marketing together with your partner and you activate them and you make sure that they get more active on social and that their website has the right content, if one of their customers or someone that already knows them sees that, they won't fill in a form. They won't become an MQL ever. Like they will pick up the phone, they will send an email and say, hey, I've seen this online. It's super interesting. Can you tell me more about it? And I think that's what we used to call the dark funnel in channel, of course, that a lot is happening under the radar, which you can't really see. And what you want is being able to really track the part of the 95% of your revenue, which is your dark funnel. So what do you think, what should we do to attribute marketing in the right way to that dark funnel of 95% in channel?
Yeah, well, it's really easy, right? If you want to prove that you're doing a good job, prove that your demand generation activities are improving partner performance. That's it. That's the simple metric. And that's how you get your budget to grow. We did this much in marketing with these partners and marketing performance. These partners relative to other partners outgrew them. That's difficult to do at scale. And again, it's why we're talking about infrastructure, because the marketing infrastructure has to be there. And, we've developed a partner marketing score to be able to indicate revenue performance. And we've seen a very, very tight correlation. But I think all businesses, if I'm a CMO or I run channel marketing, I want to be able to prove that my marketing activity isn't making content available or distributing it far and wide. If it's to partner marketing, i.e. recruitment and enablement, what did that do? And if it's through partner marketing, what revenue did that impact? And the tighter you can get those two things to be, and that to me is your only job in channel marketing, it's either to recruit and enable or it's to generate revenue. That's it. So how do you perform those? What's the goal? What's the objective? How do you track it? And whether you do that to partner or through partner, it doesn't matter as long as you're very, very clear on expected ROI and how you measure it.
Yes, I think it's super important that we are very aware of what's moving the needle when it comes to partner marketing. And I think we can actually learn a lot from customer success there, because what they have done is they were able to correlate product usage, health scores of customers, etc., to retention, to upsells, to more revenue, etc. And that's what we should focus on in partner marketing, is how can you correlate partner engagement, end user penetration, end user engagement, and all those type of metrics, get them into one metric, just like a partner health score, or partner marketing engagement score, as we call it, and tie that to revenue. And if you can do that in the right way, you can really see which partners are most active, which partners are participating in the most campaigns, which partners are reaching the most end users, and bringing that into one single score that correlates to revenue. That's how you can continuously prove the ROI of your marketing activities and eventually increase your budgets.
Yeah, you raise a great point, because I love that customer success example is a perfect example. Customer success know that health score performance indicates retention and expansion. And so what they've then geared the entire culture and organization to do isn't necessarily to drive the revenue retention and expansion, it's to drive the health score, which is much easier to measure. They put together metrics and performance and goals to impact that, because they know that correlates to revenue performance. And marketing should be doing exactly the same thing through the channel. And we see very, very few vendors do that. We see almost no partners do that. And instead, and that's our mission here, right, is to re-educate the market that actually, if we create a score that you can then indicate revenue performance, do that at scale, and you're going to get the best both the worlds, B2C via B2B channels. And that's what we're trying to deliver.
Yes, I think we should do a separate podcast about this one later on.
Coming soon.
Yeah, I think we're running towards the end of this episode already. We dove deeper into a couple of topics. I think one of the key areas is the genuine lack of priority and resources at the partner level, and the best way to scale this is through excellent infrastructure to really automate a lot of that processes. You need to offer it in the local languages of the partners, because that's another thing that significantly increases marketing participation. You want all the marketing data together in a single place, so you can have the same type of marketing data as the direct marketing team has. And you really need to find a way to tie all this marketing data into a score that correlates to your revenue, because that's how you eventually really prove the ROI of marketing, of course, and bring that to a level where you can increase your budgets and grow your partner marketing team and the number of partners that you can help with it. So thank you a lot for today, Alex, and see you next time.
Thanks, Rick.